Our client is a startup in the HIT space. After successfully deploying an on-premise proof of concept, they needed to migrate the solution to the cloud-native infrastructure, optimize it, and prepare for scaling up the solution. As this is within our expertise, we provided a complete overhaul and transitioned the client's infrastructure to the new solution. DevOps team member Kreshmir will provide a step-by-step walkthrough about the details of this process.
So the first step was moving from their on-premise infrastructure to a cloud. Now, they already did a fairly decent first step at that because they employed Kubernetes, although they did that because their development stage was not on-premise. They used the development stage, they used their developers' own computers as the development stage. So Kubernetes was the natural transition because everything was already in containers, and Kubernetes allowed for all of that to just be uploaded to the cloud, and essentially it would work. However, this also introduced a very, very difficult and complex onboarding process because all of the tools that they had used, all of the consoles, all of the shells, everything that they were utilizing at that point was simply migrated to a cloud, and everybody else who wanted to get involved with the project was forced to use exactly that. Now, since we could pretty much rework anything that we wanted, we were able to decouple that and throw out everything that was tied to specific tools, to specific shells, basically all the functions and environment variables and everything else that we could extract, we did. And this allowed for much shorter onboarding times. In the end, we potentially enable day one deployments to production because of how little there was to get to know in the project. The first step was to move the Kubernetes cluster into the Elastic Container Service. This also allowed us to decouple all of the services because the Kubernetes cluster was also serving the entire project as a bunch of different containers. So there was like 5 or 6 different containers that all worked in tandem. Some of them were just holding databases, and it was really messy and convoluted and difficult to grasp. So the first thing we did was migrated everything to the ECS, the Elastic Container Service, and decoupled everything that we could. So now there were no longer any dependencies, and the project wouldn't crash if only one tiny segment of it was unable to deploy, or the build failed, or some other problem occurred. The second step that we did was whenever we could migrate away from a container into a Lambda, we did that. This also hugely improved the reliability of the entire project and also enormous cost savings because the Lambdas, they weren't really utilized that much. They basically had containers up for the entire day when they would only use it maybe several times. So we are talking minutes where the containers had the uptime, 24/7, and that was completely unnecessary. Another benefit that we did was we removed all of the multi-repository projects and moved everything to a single repository that was self-contained. So everything regarding the project and all of its infrastructure was stored in a single repository and was readily deployable on a commit via the pipeline. So everything was deployed via code and stored in the code. So the entire project was like a one neat whole.